The people with the most power rarely look powerful. They don't need to raise their voice, make threats, or prove anything. They simply understand laws that most people don't even know exist. And your ignorance of these laws doesn't exempt you from them. It just guarantees you'll be subject to them. Niccolo Machiavelli spent his life observing how power actually functions, not how we wish it would function. And what he discovered makes most people deeply uncomfortable. Because the rules that govern who rises and who falls have nothing to do with fairness, hard work, or moral virtue. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Power has its own physics, its own gravitational pull, its own laws. And these laws operate whether you acknowledge them or not. The question isn't whether you'll encounter them. The question is whether you'll recognize them when someone uses them against you. Most people go through life believing in a just world. Work hard, be honest, treat people well, and you'll succeed. But Machiavelli understood something darker. The world rewards those who understand its actual rules, not its advertised ones. These aren't rules for domination. These are rules for survival. Because the moment you understand how power moves, you stop being an unconscious piece on someone else's chessboard. Law 1. Power hates a vacuum. Machiavelli observed that power concentrates wherever there's uncertainty. The moment you hesitate, defer, or wait for permission, someone else fills that space. Not because they're more qualified, because they moved first. Watch any corporate meeting. The person who speaks first after a question often frames the entire discussion. Not the smartest person, not the most experienced. The one who claimed the vacuum before anyone else could. They set the terms, the boundaries, the acceptable range of answers. Everyone else is now responding to their frame. This is why indecisiveness is so costly. It's not just inefficiency, it's an invitation. Every moment you spend waiting for perfect information, someone else is making the decision for you. And they'll make it in their interest, not yours. The law isn't about reckless action. It's about understanding that inaction is also a choice, usually the worst one. Hesitation isn't careful consideration. It's an unconscious transfer of power to whoever moves next. Law 2. Perception governs more than reality. Here's what makes people uncomfortable. The truth matters less than what people believe is true. Machiavelli understood that reputation, appearance, and perception often determine outcomes more than actual competence or virtue. You can be the most skilled person in the room, but if you can't communicate that skill, if you don't manage how you're perceived, someone less competent but more strategically visible will rise above you. Not because the system is broken, because you're playing by rules that don't exist. Think about the coworker who takes credit in meetings for team efforts. Morally wrong? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. Because the decision makers don't see the late nights everyone else worked. They see who confidently presents the results. The appearance of leadership often matters more than the reality of contribution. This is where most people make a fatal error. They assume competence speaks for itself. It doesn't. Competence without visibility is just expensive labor. The world doesn't reward the best. It rewards the best at appearing valuable. And this reveals something darker. If perception governs reality, then managing perception isn't manipulation, it's prerequisite. The person who controls the narrative controls the outcome. Law 3. Dependence is weakness. Utility is strength. Machiavelli warned that the moment you need someone more than they need you, you've lost. Power flows toward those who are necessary, away from those who are needy. This shows up everywhere. The employee who makes themselves indispensable, who holds unique knowledge, relationships, or skills, has leverage. The one who can be easily replaced has none. It's not about working harder, it's about being strategically irreplaceable. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment people realize you need them, they recalibrate the relationship. Your desperation becomes their opportunity. This is why revealing how much you need a job during negotiation destroys your negotiating power. You've just told them exactly how little they need to offer. The defensive application. Diversify your dependencies. Multiple income streams, multiple skills, multiple relationships. Not out of paranoia, out of strategic positioning. Because the person who has options cannot be controlled by those who have one. Freedom isn't having everything. It's needing nothing from people who would use that need against you. Law 4. Generosity without strategy is exploitation waiting to happen. Most people believe that kindness and generosity build loyalty. Machiavelli observed something darker. Benefits given too freely create entitlement, not gratitude. People don't value what costs them nothing. When you're always available, always helping, always saying yes, you don't become valued, you become expected. And the moment you stop, you're not just declining, you're betraying an unspoken contract you never agreed to. This is the trap of the perpetual helper. They think they're building goodwill. They're actually teaching people that their boundaries don't exist. And those same people will feel wronged the moment you finally enforce one. Strategic generosity works differently. Help when it creates genuine reciprocity, when it builds specific relationships, when it's occasional enough to be valued. Machiavelli understood that scarcity creates value, including the scarcity of your time, energy, and resources. The uncomfortable truth: people respect boundaries more than boundless giving. The person who says no strategically is valued more than the person who never says no at all. Law 5. Emotional reactions are power transferred. Here's what most people never realize. The person who controls their emotions controls the interaction. The moment you react emotionally, with anger, with defensiveness, with visible hurt, you've revealed exactly how to manipulate you. Machiavelli observed that princes who ruled by rage were eventually destroyed by it. Because anger is predictable, and predictability is weakness. The moment people know what provokes you, they own a remote control to your behavior. Watch someone try to provoke you. They say something calculated to trigger a reaction. If you explode, you've lost twice. Once by losing emotional control, and again by proving their tactic works. Now they know exactly what buttons to push next time. The countermove isn't suppression, it's observation. The moment you feel that surge of anger or defensiveness, you pause. You name it internally. I'm feeling provoked. That single second of awareness creates a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap, you reclaim power. The person who needs you to react emotionally has already admitted they can't defeat you rationally. This is why strategic silence is so powerful. It gives nothing away. It forces the other person to fill the void. And people reveal far more when they're uncomfortable with silence than they ever would in normal conversation. Law 6. Loyalty flows upward to power, not downward to principle. This one makes people the most uncomfortable, but Machiavelli observed it consistently. When power shifts, loyalty shifts with it. People align with winners, not with abstract principles or past relationships. You see this every time leadership changes. The same people who swore loyalty to the previous regime immediately align with the new one. Not because they're uniquely disloyal, because loyalty is often just calculated self-interest wearing a moral costume. This is why building power on personal loyalty alone is dangerous. Loyalty lasts exactly as long as it serves the other person's interest. The moment someone more powerful offers a better opportunity, that loyalty evaporates. The defensive strategy. Never assume loyalty is permanent. Build relationships on mutual benefit, not emotional promises. Respect people who stay when it's difficult, but don't be shocked when most don't. They're following the same law everyone else follows, they just won't admit it. And if you're the one being loyal to something powerless, ask yourself, is this principle or just comfortable habit? Because principled loyalty to a sinking ship doesn't make you noble. It makes you an example of what happens when you ignore this law. Law 7. The game doesn't end when you learn the rules. Here's the final law and the most important. Understanding these dynamics doesn't exempt you from them. It just changes how you play. Some people learn these laws and think they've discovered a cheat code. They try to manipulate, dominate, play power games. And they usually fail because everyone else can smell a bad Machiavellian from a distance. Crude power plays reveal themselves. Real mastery isn't using these laws against others. It's recognizing when they're being used against you. It's seeing the vacuum before someone else fills it. Noticing when your perception is being managed. Recognizing when someone's testing your boundaries or provoking your emotions. Machiavelli's actual lesson isn't be ruthless, it's be aware. Because the people who will use these laws against you don't announce it. They don't give warnings. They simply act while you're still pretending the world operates on fairness and merit. The uncomfortable question: are you naive enough to believe power doesn't matter? Or conscious enough to understand it without being corrupted by it? Understanding the game doesn't make you a player. Refusing to understand it just makes you a piece. So the next time someone seems to have power without effort, influence without force, control without conflict, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. Not luck, not charisma, not natural talent, just laws, operating silently, invisibly, consistently. The question is, will you finally see them? Or will you keep pretending they don't exist while they continue shaping every interaction, every relationship, every outcome in your life? Because these laws don't care whether you believe in them. They're already in motion. The only choice you have is whether you'll recognize them in time. See what others miss. That's the only advantage that matters.